1340 96.5 KVGC on the phone. Douglas Viviani. Douglas and David tonight host, they kind of, like we say, anchor our evening programming with Everything Old is New Again, a show that examines our pop culture, where it came from, why it's still popular, and always, every day, making radio fun again. And Douglas, I took your advice last week. We were talking about sandwiches, and you asked me what my favorite sandwich was. Well, you said your favorite sandwich was a roast beef with some ham and all the fixins and gravy on it, okay?
Yes.
So I started thinking back. When I was in college, I had some friends that lived in Petaluma, and I went to visit them a few times, and we went to a deli. Well, I remembered as we were talking, there was a sandwich there that I really liked, and so I tried to replicate it over the weekend after listening to you on Saturday morning. We talking about this, and it was roast beef on a roll with au jus on it. Okay, not gravy, but au jus all over it. And what they did is I remember now they had the roast beef in like the au jus, and they put it on the bread, and then cut up like shredded lettuce and pepperoncinis, and I don't remember if there was cheese or not. And I tried that, and it was, you know what, pretty good. I went to the store and bought one of these little bottles. They look like little jugs of moonshine that actually have the au jus already made in it.
Pretty good.
Yeah, it's Johnny's. I think it's Johnny O's or something like that. And I used that, and it was great. And then that night I listened to the show on sandwiches and learned a lot about sandwiches.
How about that? You couldn't believe that there's so much information about sandwiches. There's so much that there's going to be another show this weekend. How do you like that?
Oh, good. Oh, good. That will be fun. What about a Monte Cristo?
We talk about that. We're not going to mention it now because we definitely mentioned the Monte Cristo. Yes.
Okay. Because you talked about the Earl of Sandwich and all that stuff. So.
Yep. And then the Fluff and Nutter. If you remember those.
You know what? I think you and I have had this conversation before. Isn't that with like peanut butter and whip the marshmallow cream or something?
Yes. That goes back all the way to Paul Revere.
Really?
Yes, or his family. You'll have to listen tonight to that.
When I was in Tennessee over the summer, we went to Graceland, and you go through the house and it's amazing. I don't know if we talked about this on the air or not, but touring Graceland, you think it's going to be some big mansion, and in today's standards, it's just a regular old house, really.
Right.
Maybe back then it was, but it's just But you go through the kitchen, and the tour guide, who is John Stamos, by the way, because yeah, you're watching it on an iPad, and it's John Stamos, and he talks about here's where the king had his favorite peanut butter and fried peanut butter and whatever banana sandwiches or
right, which we talked. And if it was something special day, he would put bacon on it as well.
Have you been through that tour? Have you gone through?
I haven't. I have to make my way out there, and it'll be part of the tour. Part of the.
Heck, you could drive there in one day. It's pretty close, isn't it? To everything east of the Mississippi is right close to each other, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Not to New York, unfortunately, but yeah, no, we could do that. I'd love to do that. And then go through that. We broadcast that general area also, Jonestown and Jonesboro, I think it is actually.
Yeah, I wouldn't be broadcasting to Jonestown. That might be.
There'd nobody listening. Put it that way. A broadcast there, but like if a tree falls in the forest, right?
Right, exactly.
But I mean, the long story short is the show about the sandwiches also is inspired you to make a new/old sandwich. You can get excited about sandwiches again instead of making the same old sandwich all the time. You sort of get into a routine, and it's always like my son has the grape jelly sandwich every day for lunch. I'm like, Leo, we can change it up, man. Let's do something different. He wants the same sandwich every day.
Do you find yourself, when you go out to dinner with your family and you go to the same restaurant, do you order the same thing every time at that same restaurant?
No. There's one place. I should say there's one place I order the same thing. They have a duck dish that I don't get anywhere else. But I try to shake it up where I get something different every time.
Come on, Viviani, you don't got to
Yes.
get all uppity. Duck. We're eating duck.
Thank you.
I'm talking about just regular old steak or chops, and I'm eating duck.
Well, when I go out, I make sure I do something that I get something to eat that I don't cook myself.
Okay.
Right? Because otherwise, what's the point? I don't know. That's my.
Because I'm one of those guys that goes, if I go to a restaurant, I know what I like at that restaurant, and I always order that.
Well, two things. Either it's really good, well, that's nothing wrong with that, or there is one other place that has stuffed shrimp recipe is really good, and I get that all the time only because it's the only thing I like on the menu. It's a limited menu.
Gotcha.
Does that make any sense?
Gotcha, yeah.
So, but if I usually go to a place, I want to shake it up a little bit and do something different.
Well, what's been going on in the Viviani household over the past week?
We're all excited over
Anything?
here. I don't know. We went on Facebook. I put a couple of pictures on there and Twitter and whatever. I couldn't help myself because Angelica, my 10-year-old, was all kinds of excited Tuesday night in New York City. Chris Colfer from Glee, if you remember that show, he now is an author of at least 5 novels, with the 6th one's coming out now. Land of Stories, young adult, kind of sort of fantasy stories that she is obsessed with. And a new one called The Tale of Magic came out, so we went to Barnes & Noble in New York City. We took the trip, saw him at 7 o'clock at night, stayed till 9 or so, or 8:30.
Wow.
And made the trek back. It takes about an hour, I'd say, with traffic and what have you, maybe a little less. And, boy, was she excited to see this author. She goes up. We practiced ahead of time. I made sure, because, of course, Dad's experienced meeting these, quote, celebrities, right? So I said, you got to practice ahead of time, know what you're going to say. You're going to get like 2 sentences. Maybe you're going to get like 15 seconds. So get across what you want. She created she drew a nice picture of this guy creating a book, writing a book, and handed that to him as an icebreaker. It was kind of nice. And she says, I drew this because you inspired me to be creative, and also besides this, I'm acting. And she goes further and says, do you have any advice about acting? And don't you know, this guy looks up, and it's in New York City, so there's a lot of people, about 1,000 people, maybe more, getting autographs, and he still took the time as a gentleman to look up, praised her for this picture, whether he liked it or not. He was I think he may have, but he was very, very nice about it.
Sure.
And then he literally talked to her about acting for a little bit. He spent about, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's spent about 4 minutes with her. Times that by 1,000 people. He spent time with every single person. Now, I've had people signing, and they just sign and you move on. Signing, don't even talk to them. Just sign and move on.
Yeah.
And I got it all on video and stuff like that. So it's a nice, great, I think, memory for her. And I love the fact that it inspires her to be creative and to read. Of course, she's reading like crazy these books. So I don't know. I thought it was a nice little turn of events there for us. So we took a little turn down the celebrity row with
Douglas. When you go to the conventions,
right?
Do you find that, for example, there'll be a person there, Joe Schmoot. He played Ferengi number 3 in Star Trek episode 17.
Yes.
Do they? Are they, do they act, yes, I was the 3rd Ferengi in this show. And,
like they're Shakespearean.
Or are they, yeah, I'll sign anything, I'll do, yeah, woohoo.
I'll tell you, it's not surprising, let's put it this way, most of them that have done small parts and not anything else now, some of them have appeared once, and like John Shuck, if you remember him, from Macmillan and Wife. Anyway, he was a minor actor in one of the movies, and he still had this huge attitude because he had been in the TV series, So it was embarrassing in a way, like, fella, you're whatever, like a little taken by yourself. But for the most part, the people that have had those smaller parts are extraordinarily nice, take their time and talk to you, and they're excited. But part of it is their line isn't that big either,
Sure.
Like you got to, like Shatner, although I shouldn't use him as an example because he's very good too. He'll talk to you for a couple of seconds here and there, But there are some of them where it's it's all business because the line is huge, and they got to get out of there in 2 hours. You know, so you got to give them a benefit of doubt, some doubt. But honestly, the Star Trek people have not run into very many that have been nasty about it. Now, other conventions, other shows, you do get. Just move along. Sign and move along. We'll sign and move along. Let's see. What's his name? Hulk Hogan and from Rocky, Stallone are charging like $200 to $150 an autograph, which I would never do, and they're pushing people along as if they're just just meat, which is surprising.
Same thing happened to us once. This was back when Will Clark and Matt Williams, Kevin Mitchell, when they were playing with the Giants. So back in the 90s, late 80s, 90s, we went to a game, and JD must have been, I don't know, like 7, 8. Yeah, we're going to go get Will Clark. They were at a signing after the game at Moscone Center. There was a baseball card convention, and they were going to be there signing. Yeah, we'll go there. Well, we get there after the game, not knowing, and there's a line, 4 miles long. I mean, out the building around, and they were charging $25 an autograph.
Right.
It was like, nah, we don't want to do this, son. This is, and how are you going to tell your 8-year-old son that we're not going to stop and get your hero's autograph because Dad's too cheap to pay $25 and wait in line for 4 hours? You know what I mean? But hey.
It's the line that's worse than the money, almost.
Yes. Well,
an hour at least.
See, back then, it was the money. I'd stand in line for 5 hours. It didn't matter. Now, what? I'd give you $100. Just let me go to the front of the line. I don't care.
Exactly. But also, for that kind of money, times 1,000 people, they're making a good number.
Oh yeah.
You want there are exceptions. There are some people that just want to monopolize this person's time. But all you want to do is say hello. You want to say your 1 sentence or 2 sentences. You want to get them to acknowledge what you say, and have a little bit of a memory, to it. So if they're not going to do that, really, come on. Jack Klugman, for example, from The Odd Couple.
Yeah.
Was terrific. He came out. He did a book signing. We went to a place in Huntington here that has a lot of these celebrities come for book signings, and we waited online for a little while. And I came up and I talked to him and I said, "Listen, I know you like horse racing. Have you ever been to Saratoga, which is a nice track upstate New York?" His eyes lit up. He looks up and he went into a monologue about Saratoga versus Santa Anita, which is out in California, as you know, and how quaint Saratoga was. He loves it. He loves, so like. It's a memory I'll always have of and it only was like 30 seconds, or maybe a minute, But that memory of that monologue it will last with you, and it's great public relations. And he got X amount of dollars for the autograph. What happens is you have to buy the book, so they get X amount of dollars for buying the book.
That happened to me with Emmylou Harris. We went to this was back in the late maybe 79, 80, 79 or 80, and. Went to a concert, got to go backstage, get a picture with Emmylou Harris, and we were instructed, do not talk to her, do not touch her. When it comes your time, you walk right up, you stand next to her, look at the camera, you have one shot. And that's what it was. And she just stood there, and you know what it made me feel like, honestly? It made me feel like I was having my picture taken with the prize, the champion steer at the fair or whatever. There was no interaction. She was just standing there with this smile on her. It's a very nice picture. I post it on Facebook every once in a while because it's the only picture I have with me and a star. So it's my only claim to fame. So I put it up every 3 years when people forget about it. But no, but I still remember that to this day. Don't talk to her. Don't touch her. And
you're no longer a fan, or at least it hurts your fandom a little bit,
well,
right?
It was like, wow, why are you being so freaky? Why can't you just say hello? Or, and like you say, if there's a line of 400 people, you get tired of going, hello, how are you? Hello, how are you? Right. But it wasn't that way.
But it's $20 a pop times probably 50 people in an hour. That's a pretty good number to that you're. I don't know. You just that's $1,000, but okay.
Yeah, I'll take it.
$1,000 in an hour. I mean, is that so terrible to say hello?
Let's just put it this way. Let's just put it this way. This is something that neither you nor I will ever have to probably worry about.
Exactly. Well, we did it with Leonard Nimoy, And I went up with a group, Rich Richter's on the show. You hear him every so often. We went with a couple of guys, and we go up, and he stops for a minute. He shakes all of our hands, all three of us, asks us where we're from. Are you enjoying the convention? Great to see you guys. We had to interact with him, took the picture, and then off we went. I mean, what a gentleman. He did that with everyone. You can imagine at the Star Trek convention, he had a line that had to be 1,000 people, if not more, and he did it with everybody. A true gentleman. You remember that. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how to say anything other than I really think it's dependent upon the person. Sometimes you look at the handlers and you think it's them. No, the instructions come from the star. There's no doubt as to how to handle the situation.
Sure, exactly.
Unless they're naive and have never done it before, that's a different story.
But what I meant by that was you and I will never experience people waiting in line for our autographs. We'll have to stand up. Here, want my autograph, please? Please take my autograph. So.
Absolutely right.
Hey, what's up with this week's show?
Well, this week we're going to take a look at the sandwich once again, and we're going to investigate, as we have done before, some sandwiches in the past. How about, do you have an idea what sandwiches they made when they crossed from St. Louis to Jackson in the wagon trains?
No.
We're going to investigate that. You're going to find that out.
Really?
And more. Believe it or not, there's, we said before, Paul Revere is related in some way to the Fluffernutter, and what happened to the Carnegie Deli, and more. There's so much, believe it or not, to talk about the sandwich, and we're going to get into, of course, additional recipes of sandwiches around town. In other words, what's the favorite sandwich in Boston? What's the favorite sandwich in St. Louis, and so forth? And you'd be surprised, every town or area of the country have different kind of sandwiches that you will have never heard of. And you go, wait a minute, that's either really bizarre, and I can't believe that's popular, or maybe I should try something like that.
I would say here in Amador County, I'm just going out on a limb, it would probably have to be a barbecued tri-tip sandwich, because tri-tip is the big meat around here. And
I've never had one of those here, never even heard of one.
You've never heard of tri-tip before?
I've heard of tri-tip, see it in the store every so often, but no one's really making sandwiches from it,
Yeah, well, you slice it like it's a roast, and that would be, I guess, that
sounds good.
There, so.
Got to put a little sauce on it.
Yeah, a little gravy. Wanted to run down your hands. All right, tonight at 6 o'clock, tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, David Cohen and Douglas Viviani. Everything old is new again. Douglas, have a great weekend.
Absolutely. Enjoy the sandwich.